Welcome to Phazon Labs, the internet's premier Metroid Futures podcast powered by the World 1-1 Podcast Network. I am, as always, your host, Wonder. Joining me this week is Michael, spaced out Space Jump.
Yep.
And every week we get together and bang our space rocks together until we make a new Metroid game that we'll probably never get to play, but we'll be happy that we made it anyways. So let's dig in. This week, I'm bringing one of mine to the table here, and I got really excited at the idea when this came across my brain box a couple of weeks ago, and I've actually been really itching to get in and share this one. So I'm gonna give you the synopsis off my notes here, and I might deviate a touch, but this is kind of coming as a bulk thought put down on paper, and we can play with her from there. So, Samus' ship gets shot down while scouting a reported pirate stronghold. Crashes at the base of a massive mountain stronghold with a MacGuffin. We'll say maybe, I don't know, some sort of anti-aircraft weapon that they're rocking now for airspace dominance. Not a huge deal what you want to put there, but there it is. But a MacGuffin at the top of the mountain stronghold stopping her from getting a signal out off the planet or being able to, get her ship up off the planet either. So, ascending the mountain. What was that?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, it sounded like you cut in for a sec. My bad. So, ascending the mountain with her starts with her climbing the outside, but there's also a system of tunnels and caverns that zigzag through the mountain. So the base of this mountain starts out barren, inhospitable wilderness conditions, and the first few upgrades that you find along the way will actually lean more into survival and climbing mobility as opposed to offensive and weapons abilities. As she climbs, she starts getting to the bottom outskirts of the stronghold, and the pirate population starts getting denser and stronger the higher she goes. The more combat-focused upgrades start coming in as she makes her way up the stronghold because of the fact it's actually a pirate weapons development lab. And she starts finding weapons upgrades throughout the lab. But because it's shoddy pirate tech that's still in development, there are compatibility issues that make it so that certain items and weapons can't actually be used together until late game when you find pirate research that has actually fixed their tech. So basically patches and updates for the stuff that they've been working on.
I actually like that.
Mm-hmm. So climbing the mountain on the outside is played in 2D side scroll, while segments inside the mountain actually play in first or third person, a la Prime or Other M. Dealer's choice at this point. But at the end, the final escape sequence has her trying to outrun an avalanche caused by the final boss fight at the top of the mountain to take out the MacGuffin that's stopping her from getting off the planet. And the whole final escape is essentially a big, almost snowboard style escape down the mountainside in morph ball mode, Prime style, for more of kind of like a snowboard style adrenaline rush escape where it's just downhilling it with this avalanche trying to close in right behind you to get the hell out.
That actually sounds fun.
Doesn't it? This is not, totally wild and out there. This was my brain going, this would be fucking fun. And I don't think, especially after seeing Dread, I don't think that, a hybrid 2D and 3D experience is that far out of the realm of reasonability.
No, I think it worked. Hybrid 2D, 3D. Honestly, that was the one thing I actually really liked about Other M, was how certain areas you'd be running and it'd be still a 2D plane, but it wouldn't play on a 2D plane. You know what I'm talking about?
Right. It played almost on a 3D plane. Like when you had the sections that were, long ways running from left to right, you kind of had that 3D plane a la old school beat 'em ups like Double Dragon.
Yes. Like what was it? The Mega Man X6 did the same thing a couple times too.
Okay.
Not 6, 7. One of the only good things about 7.
Right. But I mean, if they could do, some of that more cinematic, pulled up over the shoulder stuff, for the inside caverns that are crisscrossing through this mountain, hitting some points where you're out of options to traverse on the outside, and so you've got to cut through. But cutting through, the higher you go, means more and more, risking your encounters in combat with the pirates, because you're eventually going from abandoned, or empty caverns to cutting through their stronghold in and out.
What if it gave you the option to play them as stealth segments?
Ooh.
Because you can blast your way through, but if you do that, then it alerts the entire fucking mountain that you're there.
Right.
So
I'm not opposed to this.
You can play it a different way and basically sneak through using the morph ball and the cloaking device and other things like that.
Yeah.
That could be neat.
I could see some definite options in there, especially too if
basically Metal
if the spider magnet makes a comeback too.
Yeah.
This is one though where I think I don't think the space jump is a workable upgrade that could make it into this though, if you think about it, because really once you hit that, if you can get outside, you don't have anything limiting or directing your climb up the mountain.
What about a limited space jump to where it gives you the option of a double or triple jump?
I was just going to say, at the very least, you could go with the spin boost, since they've introduced that idea at this point.
Right.
And I'm fully on board with that, because the spin boost does actually offer some mobility flexibility that the high jump boots didn't. So I thought it was interesting that they replaced the high jump essentially with the spin boost in Dread. And I think that's a really applicable gameplay choice to be made here too.
Mm-hmm.
Because that at least has the midair direction change. High jump didn't really have that so much. So, but no, that like I said, I've had that rattling around in my brain for a few weeks now, and one of the things that really stuck out to me was that a lot of my ideas kind of start half-baked, and then I kind of have to tease them out to get the full thing out of my brain. This one kind of just dropped in like fully formed. Like it hit my brain, I'm like, ooh, new game. So, but that's one that's been rocking around the old brain box, and I can tell you where the idea came from, because I know that one quite specifically, actually.
Where's that?
It actually came from a game that I've been playing around with on my Oculus called Decline.
Okay.
And it's a first-person VR tree climbing game, and it's a lot of fun. But I'm looking at it going like, man, I'm having a lot of fun with this whole mountain climbing thing. I'm like, I wonder if there's a neat way I could apply this here. And then the idea just kind of slammed into the back of my brain and went, here you go, bitch. So, but I was really happy when it hit me. I'm like, man, I want to play that fucking game now. I will say, I think something that could be done really interesting here, just to mix it up, is that Gravity Suit would be an early game upgrade.
Why do you say that? What would that mean for the game, though?
So, Gravity Suit comes in as an early game upgrade because you're starting at the base of this mountain where it's a lot of, frozen, nasty, inhospitable conditions outside the mountain. And so early game, you can only spend a limited amount of time outside the mountain caves and actually climbing up the actual side of the mountain due to freezing cold conditions until you get the gravity suit early on enough to help withstand those extreme colds.
Yeah.
Which means essentially any of your liquid movement restrictions get lifted real early. But given where this takes place, I don't see that as being something that would be really pertinent here anyways. It would literally just be looking at it from the approach of this is a survival upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like the idea that it almost naturally separates those two in terms of when you're going to find them. And it says, this group of abilities is early game and this group is late game. And they're not really intermingled. But then once you start getting up the mountain and getting into some of those weapon abilities, learning, or essentially mastering the ability of using those in tandem or in concert gets a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
So
I'm still hung up on this whole the stealth aspect of it.
mm-hmm.
Like, I'm picturing the concept of you taking out a specific scientist and then having to hide the corpse.
Right.
Like, because if someone else finds it, obviously it's going to alert somebody.
Right. Now, here's what you could do. I've got one for you. You'll love this. This plays with your favorite idea now that Dreads exists.
I'm listening.
She can hide the corpse by using her Metroid abilities, because we've seen it essentially literally just absorb the whole thing into nothingness.
Yeah.
But the more she uses it, the more that DNA starts taking over and becomes more
Part
dangerous.
control.
Right. So you've got to balance that out.
What if one of the items that she manages to find is like almost a hologram system that allows her to look like the person she just took down?
I'm actually okay with this idea. One of my favorite games used that same idea is a baseline mechanic a couple of decades ago. It was a lot of fun, but it was a very different genre.
What game?
The Journeyman Project 3.
Okay.
So you were going back in time and you were using your systems or your suit's holographic abilities to take on the personas of other people around you in that time zone so that you could interact with them without causing a disruption and getting information from them.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be kind of neat to essentially functionally infiltrate the pirate base to get in and get information out while you're at it as well by disguising yourself as a pirate.
I like the idea that obviously she's not, like, it's up to you, the player. How much do you want to sabotage what they're doing?
Right. I think
what if not all of them there want to, do horrible things? What if some of them are just looking to make the universe a better place? And
all right, you've just popped an idea in my brain for another episode at some point. Yeah. But no, I like the idea. I'm thinking too, if we're playing a balancing act with the Metroid ability to make the bodies disappear, to essentially eat them, that throughout the lab there are stations that you can essentially make use of that drop that meter back some to give you a little bit of wiggle room, given that the pirates have always been interested in experimenting and trying to find a way to control the Metroids. They may have hit on something and have it there at that lab that allows her to keep that in check as she's using those abilities.
Ooh, I like that.
give you a little bit of checks and balances. So, but yeah, that's my thought. I'd love to see. I don't know, maybe. I'm definitely thinking the music needs to have something a little more adventurous, at least on the outside to start with, a little more survival leaning.
Mm-hmm.
But you definitely get a little more classic pirate industrial as you get up the mountain into the stronghold. So I think too there's a neat opportunity to essentially be mid-fight and have pirates getting dropped in by airborne skiff just to ruin your day while you're on the outside of the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention too, I kind of like the idea that scaling the outside of the mountain should be a dangerous prospect where there's nothing really, like if you've got to make a specific, jump or make it across a gap or a chasm and you miss it, you're falling back and, losing some significant progress on your upward trek up the mountain there. Because you've essentially just slid down the side of the mountain until you hit the next ledge where you can start working your way back up, and that could be a significant setback.
Right.
Not to mention, I like the idea too that there's a big flexibility in terms of what we could see in boss fights too, given that some can play out in 2D side scroll and some in a full 3D.
Yeah.
Like I would love one on the outside of the mountain in 2D where it's a mostly aerial fight where the ground drops out and there's going to be like a lot of grappling and or spider magneting because you've got almost no ground to stand on to make this fight happen, and if you drop, it kicks you out of that fight and you've got to make your way back up to it again.
Yeah.
So you can actually tweak the stakes of a boss fight quite a bit like that.
I'm also thinking that if you stealth your way through it correctly, you could actually bypass boss fights entirely.
At least some, I think. I don't think I'd want to have them all skippable because you and I have recently, piddled with another game that did the same thing where you could skip pretty much every boss fight.
Yeah.
And I kind of didn't like that.
I didn't either.
Like, I like that if you put a little bit of skill into it and you know what you're doing, you have some options.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it should be present for everyone.
I'm more talking the concept that you're still rewarded for not murdering everything in your path.
Right.
Like, because that was one thing, this other game we're talking about, which was, I'm assuming you mean Axiom Verge 2?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Like that, there was no benefit to not killing everything that you came across.
Right. But that kind of game design also meant, too, that you couldn't really put any real reward to it either.
Correct.
So it very much became a, why should I bother with this?
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was sad.
Yeah, a little bit.
But that's my idea. Should we put a title on this? And
yeah, I don't have anything though. Let's call it Laundry's Done.
Oh, let's see here. Part of me is just thinking going real simple with this. Just Metroid: The Ascent. It has a very classic mountain climb feel to it.
Kinda. Yeah, I think that's our best bet. That or something to do with the Pirate Labs concept, but
right. But no, I think the Ascent works well. It's, you know, it's really only the second game in the, it'd really only be the second game in the series that's put a primary directive on working your way up instead of down.
Yeah.
So, but no, like I said, this idea's been rattling around and it makes me happy. And
all right, here's one important question though.
What do you got?
When she wins, okay, does the
Mhm.
whole planet blow up or just the mountain?
I don't even think the mountain is necessarily blowing up. You're just escaping the giant avalanche.
Okay. Very Ori in the Blind Forest there.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. But I mean, if you're
I'm never gonna argue with Ori, man. Come on.
right, I'm just thinking the avalanche ride down in Morph Ball mode should be, you know, pulled back in third person, a la the Prime games, so that you get that really kind of rushed feel.
Yeah.
Like, I want that snowboard style adrenaline rush.
I think it'd be interesting for that if you had to continually jump in and out of Morph Ball mode.
Oh, there you go.
She's literally like almost just sliding down at certain points, and then there's a specific type of ridge coming, so she literally Morph Ball almost in midair to hit it just right.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Keep the whole thing third person, play it with speed boost.
Yeah.
And it's just one giant yes momentum, please.
I think the Shine Spark should be left out of this, though.
Agreed.
Mainly because, again, she's using pirate technology. They never managed to figure out the Shine Spark.
Right. I'm okay with that idea.
Yeah.
But no, I'd like to see her essentially, you know, the weapons upgrades be like actual pirate designs. So something, you know, drastically different. Like, I'd love to see sort of, you know, handheld weaponized version of like the res bits from Echoes, where they can actually glitch out computer systems.
Ooh. I'm also thinking wearable tech.
Yeah.
Like stuff that doesn't integrate with her suit at all, so she has to figure out a way to wear it to where it's still functional.
I'm down with this because I mean,
think the Predator's laser cannon.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, you know, I'm a big fan of when you can actually, you know, see that kind of thing affect the character design. And I know it was a little thing, but like one of my favorite things in the Prime games was the grapple beam generator, because it was a visible wearable on her left arm.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that.
This is one of the things I like the most about Darksiders, is if you really paid attention in the first game, depending on what secondary item you had equipped, part of his left arm was slightly different.
Okay.
Like if you had the crossblade attached, he would have these two blades coming off his elbow, and if you had the abyssal chain, you could literally see a chain wrapped around his arm.
Nice.
I gotta play that again.
Well, I think we've successfully managed to concoct another great game. So I want to thank everybody that tuned in this week and joined us here on Phazon Labs. I want to thank my lab partner Michael, and remind you to, you know, if you enjoyed this, you'll love a lot of our other stuff, and you should totally hit the subscribe button, slide us into your RSS feed, all that other fun nonsense. And you know, we'll be back next week here on Phazon Labs, powered by the World 1-1 Podcast Network. Press start to engage your mind. See you next mission. Peace.